Hey Angel, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Well, I was good until something
I
crazy
know.
happened.
I
And
was
now
trying
I'm
to help you. I was Googling at the same time. So I actually work in cybersecurity. So when he said that, I was like, oh my God, the security settings.
right. So we'll talk after this and you can tell me if you have any other suggestions. Scott said Microsoft Teams is way better than Zoom. So let's see if for next time we can do Microsoft Teams. But yeah, so guys, I wanted to introduce Angel. She's a professional travel hacker. I mean, has anybody heard of travel hacking? And yes, Sir Saranch, we're still good. Yes, love it. Um, she basically teaches you how to travel hack and get trips for free. I mean, we're talking flights, we're talking hotels, and it's all through points and rewards. So let me know, raise your hand in the chat or say yes in the chat if you guys have ever heard of travel hacking, if it's something you might be interested in doing. And yeah, Angel, I would love for you to like introduce yourself a little bit and just let everybody know who you are and how you're helping other people travel hack.
Okay, so my name is Angel Trinh. I've been to over 36 countries in all 7 continents. I first got into travel hacking when I was a broke college student, so I learned how to work the system that way. So when I was in undergrad, I applied to a bunch of scholarships and grants and ended up getting free housing, free tuition, and $7,000 in spending money to study abroad in Rome. So that's where like the first travel hacking thing happened, where like I got like pretty much used whatever that was possible for me that I can use like college scholarships to study abroad for free. And then after that ended, when I started working full time, I took advantage of different credit cards and reward programs, which is what I do nowadays, to learn how to best utilize and travel hack for less, going to different destinations. So most recently, I just came back 2 weeks ago from Japan. I went during cherry blossom season, which is one of the hardest time to ever travel to Japan. So I was able to book business class one way, and then I booked first class back. So the business class flight, I think it was like $56, and then the first class flight was around $46 back to LA.
Wow, wow, wow.
So the flight's usually around $12,000, but I only paid the taxes amount for using credit card points.
Okay, so tell us like what travel hacking is. If you can like say it in its most basic form, what is it?
Taking advantage of all the different reward programs, airline, hotel, and credit card programs out there and using them to your advantage to travel for less.
Okay. Now, what countries can do this? Is it pretty
What
much
kind
you're just
of
focused? I mean, like, where do you have to be in order to like access?
Okay, so I'm mostly US based. There's different rules for different countries. So I'm not as familiar with the different countries just because I'm US based, but there's different rules for other countries. So it just depends on where you live. Like I'm US based, so I only know US rules.
Okay, so you only know US rules. Tell us, how does somebody get started? Um,
So
what
it
does it
gets
look like? What do you have to do?
Okay, so if you want to get started in travel hacking, you kind of need at least a 700 credit score because if you have less than that, you need to build your credit. If you need to build your credit, I know what a lot of people do is that they add an authorized users to their account. So if you can add on to your parents or to another friend or boyfriend or girlfriend, you might be able to start that way. Usually the easier credit cards to start with if you're trying to build credit are the ones with no annual fees or getting a store retail card. So maybe if you get a store retail card at like Bath and Body Works or some other retail store, you can start building your credit that way. I think I got one of my first credit cards was actually PacSun for when I was in high school because my mom added me as an authorized user to PacSun if anyone ever shopped at PacSun during high school.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so what credit score do people need to like really do this?
At least a 700 is ideal.
700. Okay. Awesome. So tell us like what does a trip look like? So we could kind of paint the picture. What does
Okay.
a typical trip look like and what's actually paid for? Like what are
hmm
you experiencing? Tell us
hmm
kind of like paint the picture first before we dive into the details.
Okay, so I would say like the trip depends on what you want it to make it out of. So there's been times where I've booked Spirit as well. Like I don't always have to take the business class flight or the first class flight. It's really up to you of what you want to make the best out of it. There's ways to hack Spirit as well with different travel credits and stuff like that. So it really depends on what kind of vacation you want. Like, do you want like a bougie vacation where an all-inclusive resort? Do you want to stay in a place like just get the cheapest way possible, like stack with getting an Airbnb, saving with friends? It's really what you want to make it the most out of your trip. I've done a bunch of different types of trips. I've done camping trips. I've done like bougie hotel trips. I've done like all inclusives. It's just really depends on what you want to get out of the trip. So no trip is ever the same. It's just about having your expectations.
Right.
But
Having those
just
expectations.
travel hack like different types of trips. That's what I'm trying to say. It just depends on what you want to travel hack. Like I've done cheap trips on Spirit, and I've done bougie first class and business class like on Tokyo. So it just depends on what you want to make out of it.
I love that. Cool. Well, tell us in the chat where you guys would go. Like if there's a place that you would want to at least scout out before you move abroad. Where would it be that you would travel hack? Angel actually taught me through her channel, as well as just us being friends, how to do this with the Chase Sapphire Preferred to get started. And I actually got the entire flight, round trip flight paid for to Dubai and back to LA. So, I mean, this stuff works. Can you kind of tell us, like, for somebody that's just starting, how can they start? Like, what are the first steps?
So usually I would say your credit score has to be at least a 700. So there's just a bunch of different free websites where you can get like an idea of what your credit score is. Even in the Chase app and Amex app, they give you an estimate of what your credit score is too, if you have banking with them as well. I would say usually I tell people to start off with the Chase Sapphire Preferred. It's funny you mentioned that because now they have an elevated bonus for 80,000 points. If you spend like 4,000 in 3 months, that's a very good deal. That's at least 1,000 in travel. If you use the banks portal, I usually don't really recommend people to use the banks portal. I usually recommend to transfer out the points because you get more value. So an example is when I flew Air Canada, I booked a flight through Air Canada, which is a Chase part. This doesn't get really complicated. I'm going to say it very slowly.
Yeah.
So on a credit card, you have different transfer partners that you can use. So one of them I used was Air Canada. I use Air Canada to book an ANA flight because ANA and Air Canada are both on Star Alliance. So I found availability on the Air Canada website that there was space to fly from Seattle to Tokyo. So when I booked the Seattle to Tokyo, because ANA is not a transfer partner for Chase, but ANA and Air Canada are both in the same alliance for Star Alliance, I can transfer my points to Air Canada because they're selling the flight on points and there's availability on the website. So I switched my, I think I use Amex, but Chase and Amex both have Air Canada, and so does Capital One. But I can transfer the points to I can transfer the points to Air Canada once I see availability on the website to book the flight. And then it took about like maybe 5 to 10 minutes to transfer the points because you had to set up an account and everything. So you just do it through the bank's website to set up to transfer the points. And then once the points hit your account on Air Canada, which is a transfer partner, then you can book the flight and just pay for the taxes.
Wow, wow, wow. That's so cool. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? Just start putting them in the chat as we go through the ins and outs of this. So are there any risks associated with travel hacking? Like,
yeah, I mean, you have to be very responsible with credit cards. So like I always, as soon as I get the credit card, I put it on auto pay. I also like what's it called, lower the cash advance to $0 in case you use it by accident for a debit card. You never know if that happens. You know, you might have used the wrong card by accident. I also add the credit card to different apps to stack to save more money too. So it's like, as soon as you get the credit card, you want to be responsible. Like I don't recommend for anyone who's not responsible with their finances to get into this. You can also use travel hacking in different ways too. So this is actually a funny story. So when I switched jobs, I used to work in advertising and then I switched into technology. So in between, I actually took advantage of the 0% APR credit card offers, but this is a big risk, but you have to know how to manage it. So like, instead of getting a loan to pay for my tuition for the boot camp that I was in for coding, I actually charged everything to the credit card because it's 0% APR and it was up to a certain amount. Depending on the credit cards now, I think now it's up to like 24 months, depending on the credit card, or 18 months, depending on the credit cards that are offered now, because it changes all the time. But I took the risk and just charged that to the credit card because I knew I had 0% APR. So I leveraged my credit. And I was lucky after my boot camp ended, I actually got a job right away. So I was able to pay off the money right away. So instead of getting a loan right away, I charge everything to my credit card and I built credit that way too. But I don't recommend anyone to do that unless you really know how the credit card works, but that's another way. I have friends in debt. So what they do is that they also take advantage of the credit card system by doing 0% APR balance transfers. You can't owe the bank money that you want to balance transfer to. So let's say like you owe American Express money on one of their credit cards. You cannot get a 0% APR credit card on Amex because you owe them money, but you can on Citi. So you can apply for a Citi 0% APR balance transfer card and then use that to pay off your Amex card and then have 0% APR for like, I think it's like 18 to 24 months. So that's another way to still travel hack where you're still in the bank's ecosystem if you're in debt, like to leverage it that way, because you're also leveraging paying less APR on the other credit card that has a monthly APR rate versus taking advantage of some 0% APR. So that's another way that you can hack the system if you're in debt, but you're not still ready to get in travel hacking, but you want to take advantage of credit cards and using that as leverage.
Wow. So how do you stay organized with all this? So like, tell us, you've clearly taken out multiple credit cards to leverage them to get you the flights and the hotel. How do you like keep track of it all? And you know,
there's so many different apps that you can use. Like there's card pointers, there's a travel freely, there's a word wallet. There's a lot of different ways that you can use these different apps to manage your credit card points and miles, and also like just having them in general. I have them on like auto. So like as soon as like I get the credit card email, I always put it on auto pay and everything too.
Can you drop those in the chat too? So people.
Oh, sorry, 1 second. I have an affiliate link for them too, but I have to go look for it. But let me just do that in the meantime. But you can start asking questions. It's fine.
Okay, cool. Or you can find it later.
Yeah, let me just find that in the meantime while you ask. People could just ask questions while I can just look for that.
Yeah. So she said, Jen said one of my credit cards wouldn't let me pay for my other credit card with a credit card.
But that's because that depends, because if you owe the same bank money, you cannot use that. If you owe Citi money, you cannot pay Citi with that. You have to owe a different bank. So you have to know what kind of like bank it is, because I know that's how it works too. So
yeah, and Grace, to answer your question, the best one to get started with is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. And I believe
I'm putting the links in there. Balance transfer cards, I'm putting that in there too.
She's gonna put that there. I've already sent you guys her free gift, which is a travel hacking workshop. So I know that this is like pretty quick, but there's a whole other workshop, which this is a whole thing. Like, why pay when you could like leverage your points and go for free? So I'm gonna put this in the chat too for you guys. It's a free gift. Thank you for that. She literally just made it free for this summit. So thank you, Angel.
This is a travel freely app. This is a good one if you want to get started too. Travel freely.
Okay, cool. So that's the yourbestcreditcards.com. Okay.
And then the travel freely app, it's good if you want to get started, where it manages the different like credit cards for you. It has recommendations in there.
Okay.
So the card pointers one too.
Now, Zhao Philippe asks, are there any specific Canadian strategies?
I'm US based, so I'm not really familiar with Canada. I'm sorry. I get that all the time. People ask me all the time. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm American. I don't know all the specific.
I wonder, are you friends with any of the other Canadian?
Yeah, I have a few friends. Let me look for their accounts. Hold on. I have Prince of Travels one. Spencer and Ashley's another one. Hold on.
Spencer and Ash. Yeah, maybe you can reach out to these resources she has, Zhao. Awesome. Thank you, Angel. You're such a wealth of resources. And then
be sure to check out the travel hacking workshop. It's free. I made it free for you guys.
Yeah.
If you guys want to learn more about travel hacking, just because we have a short talk. So you want to so I'm gonna put the link above, but you can register there. And then what's it called? The other one's Spencer and Ashley too.
Yeah, she's gonna give you the Zhao to help you out a little bit. The one from Canada, she's gonna put the link of who you should probably reach out to. Because this niche is not too big. Like, it's very specific. You've got your experts in different countries, but definitely Angel masters the US market. How many of you aren't in the US? Can you guys just say like me if you're not in the US in the chat? I'd just like to know. Okay, cool. And say what country you're from.
Oh, there's 4 or 5.
4 or 5. Ben, Ken LV. Yeah.
9, 11.
South Africa, UK, Dubai.
Well, Points Guy has a UK version too, so you can look into it too. Points Guy has a UK.
This they have these now in every country. Cool. Okay, I'm going to put the workshop again. So I have some more questions before we go on to Arnitha, which we're going to be just a little bit delayed in terms of 20 minutes for the speakers since we had like a 20-minute delay. So, okay, what are the best ways to find like cheap flights? How do you do it? Like, and by the way, guys, Angel travels every month. She does a trip, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much every month. Like
And
next,
internationally.
I just came back from Japan this month. Next month I'm going to Puerto Rico. So
Nice. Okay,
I
so
mean that's not international, but like I usually do at least one trip a month. So somewhere.
how do you find the cheap flights? I mean,
Okay, so it depends. There's a lot of different websites you can use to find cheap flights and everything. If you're looking for business class flights specifically, my friend Ashley has a business class flights newsletter for that one. If you want to find like mistake fares and business class flights, I know there's another one I'm an affiliate link for. It's which I'm blanking out on the name right now, but they also have a newsletter where it gives you the cheapest flights you can find also as well. And
okay.
then what's it called? If you're really being specific, there you can go on Google Flights and find a different, like go to that section where it says like wherever to find out where you want to go and stuff. They also have that on Skyscanner as well. But if you're looking for specific point searches, there's different tools I use, like Expert Flyer. I use that one to find out like if there's a word space or not. I also use Point.me. So I also take advantage of those too. I just saw the question, you can't pay a credit card with a credit card. Yeah, you can't do that. But what I was referring to was a balance transfer. That's what you can do. So like you cannot, like when you pay a credit card, you have to use your bank account to pay for it. You cannot use a credit card to pay for a credit card. That what I was talking about, what I did was a balance transfer. So it's different.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, does anybody have any questions about that? Feel free to put it in the chat. She said Hopper also sends notices. Do you like that one? Hopper?
Hopper, I believe that's powered by Capital One too. Like Capital One's portal, I think it's powered by Hopper as well.
Okay.
Yeah, when your flight drops. Because I know that for Capital One, if you book your flight through them, like through the portal and stuff, if the price drops, they will refund you back the balance that up to a certain amount where if the price drops on Capital One. So on Capital One Venture X, you have a $300 travel credit that you can use in the portal. So that's the only time I really use the portal and stuff when they have that, but you can use that for flights and stuff. If they drop, they'll refund you the price on top of the $300 travel credit you have. And if that flight you booked with the $300 travel credit drops in price, you get refunded back the difference too, up to a certain amount.
So question. So you apply for the Safe Chase Sapphire Preferred, for example, or whatever your equivalent would be in your country for those of you that live in the UK. You spend $4,000 in the first 3 months and they give you 60,000 points. And then
it's now 80,000 points. It's 80,000.
80,
yeah.
Wow. So it's now 80,000 points. Okay. With those 80,000 points, you can basically purchase a round trip flight for $1,000 and you can go anywhere. Maybe that can be, you know, LA to Australia, for example, or to Europe. Now you're saying you would go to the Google Flights or the other websites that you recommended, find those flights first just to see the cheap ones. And then you go back to the Chase app, the bank app, and go and book it. Is that how the process and the flow would be? Or is there?
Okay, so once I get the points, sorry, I have a cough, but luckily there's no one here. Once I get the points, it depends where I want to go. So like, let's say let's say I was trying to book Japan, because then I used Air Canada, right? So if I know if I'm trying to book a specific destination, I mean, Google Flights is good if it depends on how flexible, like, are you very specific to where you want to go, or are you just open to chasing deals? That's the first question. For me, I know for April, for that flight for Cherry Blossoms this month, I wanted to go to Japan. I've never been to Japan. So I was like, no, I want to go there. So then I was very specific of what I wanted. So I even set up a word alerts on Expert Flyer, because you can set up award alerts when space is available. So when you use a transfer partner, not all the time there's space available, because there's only a limited amount of business class and first class seats. There's not enough seats. And some of the seats for my flight specifically, when I flew business to go from Seattle to Tokyo, there was no economy. The only option was business. So like they had a randomly opened a flight. So then you can get a flight alert on Expert Flyer when that flight opens, because you can select certain airlines let you get flight alerts on Expert Flyer. So I did that to get an alert and stuff, but I was able to find it manually too. So like It depends on how specific you want to be. So like I've never been to Tokyo, so I went to Tokyo. So I was very specific of how I wanted to do that. And also I booked that flight less than 2-3 weeks out, because when you get closer to the date of the travel, sometimes flights open up because the airline, they might want to try to make as much money as possible trying to sell a seat. So last minute, they might open the space out for the business class, economy ticket, or the first class seat. They might open it last minute, and then you can use the points then. Usually people book either way in advance or last minute when the award space opens, because people cancel their flights too. So it depends how flexible you can be with. I know some of my friends that gave them anxiety. They're like, how can you set up all these different flight alerts and stuff like that? And why'd you fly out of LAX instead of, why'd you fly out of Seattle instead of LAX? Because I didn't want to fly out of LAX because I didn't want to fly in economy. I wanted to fly in business. So that was also part of that too. So I booked a flight from LAX to Seattle 3.5 hours before for 9,000 points to go to Seattle. And then from Seattle there, I flew business class. But I know not everybody wants to do that, but I didn't want to fly economy all the way. So it just depends on how specific you want to be.
Wow. That's so much insight.
You only receive an invoice. There's a free training there. If you put in the code there, it's free. The link does not work.
Are you talking about for your workshop?
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah, I think the link works.
Receive an invoice, but the invoice is $0, so it's free.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why there's a conflict if it's free.
And Sybil, we're gonna send the free gifts afterwards as well via email. But yeah, the link should work. I think it's working for everybody else. Is anybody else having an issue with the link? If so,
someone says use the second link she added and it works. It worked. Okay, so people are saying it worked.
Yeah, no, it's good. We'll sort it out though. Send me an email to for you, Sybil, how you were having issues, and I'll make sure you get the right one.
Someone said, like, do you buy points? I usually don't buy points. I usually just use them from credit cards, because you can technically buy points if you're short a little bit, but I don't do that because I have enough points to pay for the flight. But I know that some people do that. Some of my friends do that. When they're short on points, they'll buy points because they don't have enough credit card points. So they'll buy points, but I usually don't. And the better strategy I use is that whenever a bank has a transfer bonus, so then I can take advantage of that. So that's what I do. But everybody does things differently. Sometimes if you buy points, if you don't have enough points, the flight's still cheaper to buy with points. So it depends on the situation. You have to do the math to see how much difference it makes. Like I had a friend, I think this happened a year or two ago. It was with my friend Lindsay. She had to buy points for a flight because she didn't have enough credit card points, but for her to buy points, it was still cheaper than paying retail. So it depends on your situation of how you have to analyze it. If you're short on time crunch too. Like there's been times where like last minute, like last minute, I booked flights for people before where like the retail price would be over a few $100s, but because I had credit card points and I knew which transfer partner to use, it was cheaper that way. I just helped a client the other day. It was more than $200 or $300 to buy in a Chase portal, but because she found availability of Virgin Atlantic to fly Delta, it was only $7,500 versus $200. $7,500 is like $75 versus paying a few $100s. So it was a lot cheaper for her to use the points to transfer out to someone else for a transfer partner.
Wow.
So it just depends.
Awesome. Is anybody have any questions about anything that's coming up? How you guys can travel cheaply? And then are there other strategies to save money on travels?
How much money do you have to spend in order to earn points? So it depends on the different credit card of what the requirements are. There's a Barclays AA credit card where you can even do one transaction. So you can literally buy like a cucumber at the grocery store and you get points from the American Airlines card. So like there's even that one too. So it depends on the card.
Tell us about that, Angel, about you have your different cards for your different needs. Like you have one card that you just use for food because groceries, it's like 3x points, right? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so it depends what credit card you have. So on my City Premier card, that's 3x on grocery. But on my Amex Gold, that's 4x on grocery. So it depends like what kind of things you want on the credit card. For the Amex one, it's an easy one, the Amex Gold, because you get 4x at US supermarkets, 4x on dining, so all the different restaurants, $10 monthly Uber credit, $10 monthly Grubhub credit. So if you order takeout twice a month, that's an easy one. Because that's like the annual fee is $250, but you get $120 each in credits. That's $240 and $10 annual fee. You use one Amex offer. You can even use an Amex offer. I actually did this other way. I used the Amex offer coupon to buy Zoom for a year. So you can even do that. Like I've also done it for different restaurants where they have deals in for the Amex offers, like coupons on their credit card to get discounts on food and stuff. So like essentially you get the money back from the card. Because I have corporate advantage program, so I have an Amex corporate card through work. I actually get a $100 credit for Amex green because I have I have the Amex corporate green card. So I get $100 for Amex gold and $150 for Amex platinum. So essentially, if I don't have the Amex gold card, I lose money because I have a corporate credit from work for $100. That's each year. I have $120 in Uber credit and I have $120 in Grubhub credit. The fee is $250. If you add up that up, I have way more in like credits for that. So I already make up the money. I pretty much get 2 takeouts and then like $100 that's broken out for the annual fee, the credit from the corporate advantage program. So it just depends on your situation.
So some people say that their rebuttal for getting these cards is like, oh, but there's all these annual fees, and at the end of the day, the trip isn't really free. What do you have to say against that? Because I know I have like one friend who he's really, I don't know why he doesn't really want to do this. And I'm like, why not? But what would you say to somebody like that?
Who doesn't want to get in credit cards? It's up to you. Like
Yeah.
you can either sign up for a $95 credit card and you have expenses each month where you make up the $4,000 from like just housing, from buying food, from buying like everyday expenses. Then you pretty much knock that out. Would you rather pay $95 for a flight, or like for just think about it, because $95 is an annual fee, or
Right.
pay a few $1,000s for that same flight? So my Air Canada flight to go to from Seattle to Tokyo was worth $12,000, but the Chase Sapphire Preferred bonus is 80,000 points, so I could pretty much go round trip 2 times in business class. So would you rather do that?
$1,200, right? Round trip.
Huh?
You said
So
round.
12,000 one way to go business class. It's because the
Really?
flight from it's $10,000 each way
Oh
to
my,
go to, at least $10,000 each way to go to fly from in business class,
that's
because it's
crazy.
not cheap.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, so like, so if I got 43,000 points that I paid, I think I paid around 43,000 points, or it was either 53 or 43,000, still less than 80,000 points. That's a $12,000 flight that you're paying. So would you rather like pay $12,000 out of pocket to fly that flight, or sign for a credit card and still have leftover points to fly business class? And not everybody can fly business class. Like think about that. You're getting experiences that you would never pay elsewise.
Okay. Now somebody asked, with these cards that you're talking about, can you also use them abroad? Can
Yeah, so
when you-
Amex is more restricted abroad.
Okay.
But for Capital One, if you're new to this, Capital One actually doesn't have foreign transaction fees. So that one I would recommend too. If you at bare minimum, if you're trying to travel abroad and stuff, if you could at least get a Capital One card because they don't charge foreign transaction fees. And an easy gateway is actually the Saver One card. The Saver One card, you can get 3x on dining, 3x supermarkets. I put the link over there for Capital One cards as a master list. But that one, if you're not ready yet, you can still get the Saver One Saver One card in the meantime, because that has no annual fee. And once you're ready, apply for the Capital One Venture X card or Capital One Venture card, and then use that points from Saver One and move it over to Capital One Venture X or Venture to transfer out to airlines and hotels. So in the meantime, you can still use a credit card on a different on a different one of their different credit cards and still not pay a foreign transaction fee. So that's what I recommend if someone's still kind of like hesitant, because you're still building up points on Capital One Saver One. And once you build up the points with Capital One Saver One, and once you get a Capital One Venture X, you can move the points to Capital One Venture X or Capital One Venture. And Capital One Venture X is actually a $5 moneymaker because it's a $395 annual fee, $300 travel credit, and then they give you a $100 anniversary credit. So like you pretty much net it out to $5. You're ahead of them by $5. No, it doesn't cost money to move points between cards. It's free because it's within the bank. You can technically, so like, I think another question I saw earlier was that like, let's say there's an overlapping partner. So like there's British Airways, but you're short on Chase points to transfer to British Airways, but you have a lot of Amex points. You can still transfer your Amex points to British Airways, so you have enough points because they're both transfer partners. So you could take some from Amex and some from Chase and still can't transfer them out to British Airways to have enough points to transfer out, because some of the partners overlap and some don't. So like one of my favorite programs is actually Hyatt for hotels through Chase. So I get a lot of I'm a Hyatt globalist too, and I have American Airlines Platinum Pro status. So for Hyatt, last time I was in New York, I actually got upgraded to a suite, And so did when I was in, I didn't get upgraded in Tokyo because it was really hard because there was too much, it was very peak season, so they didn't have enough suites. But I got upgraded when I was in Houston and New York the past few months. So that was pretty good.
Awesome. Wow. It's so cool what you're doing. And how do you keep it all organized? Like
Those different apps, you have to like use them.
like
Like, I mean, I have it on auto too. Like I have auto pay and stuff, but there's like card pointers, there's travel freely, there's a word wallet, there's
don't
different
have
apps to use.
an Excel sheet, like with
You
all
do
of,
an Excel sheet too.
is that what you do as well? Is you have everything on Excel?
Well, like on what's it called? Like, so for me, I don't transfer points out until I book something. I know some people don't do that. Like I have a friend that he will transfer out when there's a transfer bonus. And I don't want to do that because once you transfer out when there's a transfer bonus, your points cannot go back to the bank. They stay with the airline hotel. So you have to be mindful whenever stuff like that is like, don't do speculative bookings unless you're gonna know you're gonna use those points. So that's what I do.
Okay. And then before we're going to open it up for questions. So if you guys have a question and you want to come off mute, raise your Zoom hand. And then let's see, what's your like, can you tell us your untold secret of traveling and living this life? I know you work remote. I mean, what's a secret that you want to share with everybody? And it doesn't necessarily have to be about points. It can be about points, whatever's just coming to mind. Like, what's a secret to living this lifestyle that you're living?
I mean, the secret, I guess, is just like, you just have to be responsible and manage your stuff. Like if you want something and you have to go get it, right? So like if you want to travel for less, one of the ways is through credit card travel hacking, but you have to be responsible while doing it. So like what you can do is like, if you're struggle to make the $4,000 amount of money and spend, see if you can actually help your friends pay for expenses. And if they can, Venmo you back. So I actually did that a few times. I was charging like a few of my friends their rent on my credit card to get the points to go travel because I needed to make the sign up bonus. And they were nice enough where they just like Venmo me back the money, but only do it for people you trust, you know, you don't want to do it from a random stranger. So like I was able to make sign up bonuses that way too.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Angel before these are the last 5 minutes until we get Arnitha in, who's going to be talking about property in Europe and healthcare? Does anybody have any questions? I mean, Angel is such a good resource. I've dropped her Instagram, which is she provides tips on the daily. I think it's every day, right? Would you say?
Pretty much every day, yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to put it here again so you guys can follow her on Instagram. I love your content. It's awesome. And then I'm putting your website too, as well as again, the free gift. So you guys can have that. And she literally just made it free for this summit. Don't be shy, guys. Anything you want to know about travel. Oh, here's Joseph. Okay, Joseph. Shoot, go ahead. I just asked you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Hey, Joseph.
Hi. I was just wondering, does she run into a lot of restrictions like blackout dates and stuff like that to use the points and things like that?
For the transfer partners, so kind of like how I booked Tokyo, I only did 23 days in advance because then before that they were all blacked out. So if you're using transfer partners, they might be blacked out dates where you might get the date that you want. And for that flight, I had to fly out of Seattle instead of LAX. Like I'm based out of LAX, but I had to fly out of Seattle because Seattle had the ward space, but LAX didn't. Otherwise, I could have flown economy if I wanted to, I guess, out of LAX, but I wanted to fly in business. So I just spent 3.5 hours extra to go to Seattle, which is fine because I went to American Express Lounge in the meantime.
Okay, so you do have to work around blackout dates.
Well, if they have awards for award space on transfer partners, yes, but usually get more value out of transfer partners in the bank portal. The bank portal, like on Chase's portal or Amex portal, you can use whenever because that's based on cash rates. But that's not, the cash rate and the transfer partner is not equal. So like a cash rate's a set price. So in a Chase portal for Chase Sapphire Preferred, it's set at 1.25. Your points are worth 1.25%. But in a transfer partner, they might be higher in value. So when I flew to Tokyo, my cost per point was 15 cents. Cost per point versus 0.125. So 0.125 is very different than 15 cents versus 1.25. Like,
yeah.
Okay. So do you want to get more points, like 15 points? The cost per point was 15 cents versus something set at 0.0125. That's a big jump to go from there.
You said 0.0125.
So if you go from like, because your chase points, I'm gonna write it. Chase Sapphire preferred points are worth 1.25, right? So they're worth
1.25.
1.25. So they're worth like 0.0125 in the portal, right?
Okay.
So if you go from there, so 0.125 versus 0.15, that's very different, right? Because you have a zero, like 15 cents cost per point versus something that's 0.0125.
I see.
Yes. So like if I use a transfer partner, that's how high I got versus using something that's set in the Chase portal. But a Chase portal you can use whenever, like, because that's
I
based on
see.
cash rates. So your
I
points
see.
are based on the cash rates versus a transfer partner can go up or down. Most of the time, transfer partner is cheaper than using the Chase portal, but transfer partner might not have availability. So you have to be flexible with the dates and stuff sometimes. But I
I
mean, there's
see.
been times where last minute it has opened up for me where I booked something last minute. So like it depends. It's a toss up, right? But do you want to
Yeah.
get like 0.0125 versus 15 cents? Do you want to save on points or you don't want to save on points and be stuck to that specific destination you're going to? So it depends.
I see. Thank you.
Awesome. So
Thanks.
were we able to answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else before we switch it on over to Arnitha, who's going to be talking property and healthcare in Europe?
Okay, I'm going to answer Ben's question really fast.
Yes,
Does it
go ahead.
impact? So my credit score actually went up because of credit utilization and also the payment history. So when your credit card score it actually goes up because of the utilization and the credit history for the payment history, because that's more than half of your credit score of what it's worth. New credit for like the hard inquiry is only worth 10% versus being worth over 70%. So that's a lot higher. So your credit score actually jumps up from this. But if you're trying to get a mortgage soon, like my brother's trying to get a mortgage soon, I told him not to get into this yet because he has to get his house first and then he can get into this. So like if you're trying to do something very sensitive like a mortgage, then I would do that.
I'm going to have Angel answer a couple more questions or share one other thing while I run to the restroom. This is what happens when
That's all good.
5-hour event. You are a human and you still do need to use the facilities. So I'm going to be right back while Angel answers some questions.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. What do you do after you use up the sign-up bonus? I've always find I don't spend enough for me to take a while to accumulate points, redeem my points for anything meaningful. And it always seems like the airlines are increasing the number of points required. So for Sandra, so can you pair up with different friends? Kind of like the example I gave. I paid rent for a few of my other friends to make the sign-up bonus. So that's what I've done before. If you have friends that let you do that, or even ask people in your building too. Like I've done that before actually, where I know people. I ask them like, hey, I'm actually trying to make my credit card sign-up bonus. Can you just Venmo me back the money or Zelle me back the money? And that has worked for me, where I've done it with a bunch of other friends. And then I don't spend enough. So like spending enough. So like if you need to make the spend, try to pair up with different friends. Because if you think about it, even if you pay like small fee, like my rental place, I think they charge like 2% or 3% for using their credit card. But would you rather get a credit card with like points or just pay cash rate for travel then if you didn't make the credit card sign-up bonus? So you think about that too. It always seems that airlines are increasing the number of points required. It depends. Because if you're booking cash rate, like kind of like the example I just gave, you're just booking the portal. That's a cash rate. That's very different than a transfer partner. A transfer partner might have a set award chart. So when I flew on Air Canada, that's based on the award chart, where depending where you fly, the award chart is different. So it might be cheaper versus something like the cage portal. It's a set price for what the airline wants to charge that day. So they might have charged a flight for $4,000, $5,000. But in transfer partner, if there's availability with space, and that award chart is there, they will charge him the award space price, which is why it's cheaper. So it depends what you're looking for. Okay, I think Shauna's back.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for all of your guys' questions. Really awesome. And hey, feel free to reach out to Angel if all your questions didn't get answered. I've put her email in the chat as well as her Instagram. You're very responsive, Angel. So thanks so much for being here with us. And I wanted to introduce you to, hold on here really quick, to Arnitha. Let's see here. Let me bring her up. All right, Arnitha, I just asked you to start. And she's going to come up. Who's excited about learning about property in Europe? Awesome. There you are.
Okay. Oh,
Awesome. Well, I
I'm
wanted
gonna
to
take
introduce
myself
you.
off of, okay, fine.
There you go. Hi, Arnita. I wanted to introduce
Because I
you
have
to
my,
Angel. Angel's an awesome resource for travel hacking. And I know you listened to her presentation, so hopefully you
I've
guys
been soaking it up.
amazing. And Angel, for just so you're aware, Arnita does like property and helps people buy
I
their
need a
home
little more light.
in
Sorry.
Spain, and also takes care of healthcare for people when they travel. So
Yes.
yes,
Yes, I have clients all over the world,
awesome.
all over the world.
Thank
And
you
it's been
so
a
much,
busy
Angel.
week.
It was so good to see you. If everybody could put thank you in the chat for Angel jumping on and taking her time for her busy weekend to come share with us all of her tips and tricks. We appreciate you, Angel. Thank you.